Well, here I am at the park. This is my little hangout place. It looks like it's 10:47 a.m. and I'm sitting under a tree, if you can see that, right? I always stop off at the park when I go to the store. You know why? Because it's just like my little time to just kind of, center myself, gather my thoughts. And I have a lot of thoughts, right? So, I woke up this morning and I immediately, I'm like totally Dickie Mo. This is Dickie Mo, part two, part affinity, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I tend to obsess about this issue a lot. And I think a lot of people think it's because, I'm focused and fixated on Elon, who I have a crush on, right? So yeah, I do have a crush on Elon Musk. But, a lot of times I'm thinking more about this bitch, right? I'm thinking about, you know, somebody who would be that malicious to try to control someone's life that way. And I woke up this morning and thinking about coming to understand the kind of environment that a lot of people who are in the industry, when I'm talking about industry, I'm speaking of celebrities, okay, in general. So, and I'm not saying all celebrities, but a lot of the celebrities were slaved like themselves. Like, the reason why Diana Ross treats me like shit is because her master, her parents probably were using her financially, and this sort of shit is normal to her, or she had a family member, or this is a standard that she was used to seeing when she was growing up. She grew up in ignorance, and this is something that apparently is the fact with a lot of the celebrities. Okay, this is one of the reasons why they jumped on board with it. It really boils down to neglect, neglect of the parental responsibilities of being able to raise their kids to be good citizens. And see, they don't think about these sort of things because oftentimes, kids like burden babies or whatever, their parents have it in their mind that they're going to take advantage of these kids in the first place. I know that my dad used to tell us stories about how his family was somehow, his father particularly, was always reliant on him, to help out with the bills and help out the family. And like, don't get me wrong, you know what? I love my son, okay? And so, yeah, my house is always open to him because this is my family. I love my family, okay? But as a parent, I feel that I want my son to have a better life than I do. So I know that when it comes to my views on what a family means and what Diana's view of what a family means, it's completely different, okay? I want my son to have the best life he possibly can have, okay? So I never had it in my mind that, when he gets older, he can take care of me. I figured I was going to work to the day I die. And really, if things like human trafficking wasn't, in existence, I certainly would be. See, the goal in life is to have stability. That is what I have. And see, she was a person who has set herself as some sort of opposition to make sure that I would never have stability. Now, I figured, once I would work, I would be I'd get a job and I would consistently work for that company. And I know that's very rare these days. And you know why that's very rare these days? Is because standards, number one. And two, do I think a lot of it has to do with human trafficking, people coming in, being set up in these fake jobs and for temporary purposes, for specific purposes. And if that issue or that little plan falls through, then they'll reassign her to another job or some other crazy shit. Do I think human trafficking has a lot to do with the decline of stability in the American, not just America, but in other places too? Yes, I do. Okay. I find this very interesting, but disturbing at the same time. And so, yeah, the reason why, this is one of the reasons why, when you deal with psychopathic type behavior, a lot of people are mortified. The victims of whatever they do are mortified because they fully understand like the legal implications of it, the psychological implications of it, and the victim is feeling it 100%. This is one of the reasons why people find it shocking, like when you see these weird people who commit murder and they're sitting here laughing about it in the courtroom, or they just seem like, hey, whatever. They don't understand what they just did. Okay, it just does not sink into it that this is what they caused, the damage of the family or anything like that. So there's really no remorse. Some people do not have a conscience. And it's these sort of people like psychopaths and these sort of like sociopathic behavior that I'm going to be talking about in the moral reset. Now, the purpose of the moral reset is not to, it's not to It's not to diagnose, okay? It's more like be aware of these sort of abusive behaviors. It manifests in the behaviors, okay? Like you can't just tell that somebody's a sociopath by them walking down the street, okay? But when you start interacting with them and the sort of things that they start doing and saying and behaving and how they treat you, it all starts to become very, very clear that you may not want to put a title on it, but you at least understand, I may not want to have this person around as my friend, okay? You can be an acquaintance with certain people. An acquaintance means like, you're polite, you have your light exchanges, how are you, how's the weather, that sort of stuff, If their mail comes into your mailbox, you're the good neighbor, you make sure that they get it, okay? But I'm saying you're not going to tell this person your secrets. You're not going to sit here and be buddy-buddy with this person, reveal intimate things about yourself. There's standards that people have to have when it comes to friendship, okay? And when it comes to what these people have done to me, you've proven that you're not my friend, okay? This is what I'm saying. And I do have high standards. I do know how to care, and I do know how to love people. This is one of the reasons why, I understand, and I'm very much aware of how much abuse exists in our society, okay? So yeah, I'm traumatized by all that, and I'm traumatized, that at all of my videos, if this issue about the moon landing thing was somehow trying to take a jab at me, okay, I don't know how long ago that moon landing thing was, okay, I just remember seeing a bit of it on Facebook, but if it was meant to be taking a jab at me, this means that this is a woman who has never been repentant from the very get-go. This is a woman who needed to be stopped. She needed to be stopped, meaning like there was something wrong with her. She was keeping on going. She could not control herself. She has a compulsion, okay? If this is indeed, her doing and her influence was behind all this. I'm just somebody who's trying to live. I had a very rough life growing up, and I just want to be able to live out the rest of my life doing the things that I want to do, okay? And given the fact that the laws in this country support that, okay, and I feel as though the United States is a free country, I have to remind people of this sort of behavior. I have to literally have to put them in check. And I do understand the reason why I have to put them in check is because some of us have been living in different realities. This is not supernatural, it's a reality, okay? Think about it. If somebody has been indoctrinated with, for example, a certain perspective, I'm not going to sit here and say LDS, okay? But, it's a good example, or a religious way of thinking. They have a view of the world that could actually be very destructive to other people if it's, initiated widespread. I'm going to use something very basic as an example. Like, I know Mormons used to not want to drink caffeine, okay? Caffeine is something that they used to view as, negative, okay? And I knew a lot of people that I grew up, their parents would not drink coffee. Coffee was in our house all the time. I drink coffee. Coffee is part of my morning ritual. Well, let's just say, for example, a Mormon gets into like a position of power where they have the choice to decide what gets sold at stores, and they remove coffee. Okay, everybody's going to be pissed off, right? And they're going to be angry because that impedes on their right. That's their right to enjoy a coffee, right? And their certain religious choices are preventing people from living the life that they want. Okay, and see, this is why I'm saying when it comes to, religious institutions as far as their schools and stuff, I understand that people generally want to focus on the religious groups, leaders, or maybe people who maybe have contributed to the country, and they need to be fully aware that other people have contributed to the country, and overall they are allowed to practice their religion if they want to, but not everybody is of that religion. You know what I mean? Because it's this sort of nice thinking, and then you have these burden babies who are in this environment, and then they can easily be brainwashed. They can easily be brainwashed, okay? Anyway, back to Elon Musk. So, I had encountered, quite a few imposters, or could be imposters, and there might have been times where I was actually talking to Elon Musk. I have an email address from Elon Musk, and it could very well be an imposter. Okay, now I will tell you, a person who plays with somebody's emotions like that is very twisted. Okay, when I was a teenager, we used to do silly stuff like that and pretend to be somebody. But see, after somebody has stolen from me, after somebody has put me in positions of poverty and done certain things to me, how dare you come up with any sort of joke and trying to be cheeky or funny or clever? Okay, that's what I'm saying. So if this is an imposter, okay, that makes me feel very uncomfortable. Okay, if Elon Musk wants to communicate with me, he shall do so, in a way where there is no doubt. I don't want to have to sit here and question that. I don't want to have to sit here and second guess it. Okay. And I don't really want anyone thinking that it's okay to keep, what Diana Ross did private. You know what I mean? Because in this situation, I'm dealing with people who know this secret, and they have been, they've been keeping the secrecy for a long time. It needs to not be a secret anymore. It needs to not be a secret anymore. The secrecy only helps people who are doing evil. Okay? If people are demanding that this remains a secret, it's because they're doing evil. Okay? It needs to be outspread. Out wide, spoken about, discussed, out in the open. Okay? And if it's not going to be out in the open, then you've got something to hide. So, and this is how I'm presenting it, because I'm tired of suffering the drama. I'm tired of dealing with the drama, and I'm tired of, people thinking that they can associate with me after they've robbed me. You know what I mean? It's just not acceptable. As for going back to Elon Musk, I would be very happy if you did reach out to me. I would love to be your friend, and I could be a true friend. You know what I mean? I am a true friend. I understand what people need on an emotional level, and that's the most important thing you can ever have in this world. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up this video. Take care. Bye.